Glad to get that over with.
Yeah, who'd that come from?
Looked like it was the SBARC computer. He mentioned he had 2 cameras on it. I'm thinking maybe both of them had open microphones.
Oh, yeah, probably. So are you the host?
No, I'm the gee whiz know-it-all presenter.
I didn't know if you had mute capability to mute people.
Oh, trust me, I tried.
Okay. How are you, Orv?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing okay. Tired of my commute.
I'll bet. Even with a little diesel?
You know, I've been taking the bus because, hang on, because $6 a gallon for diesel is a little on the high side for me.
I'll bet. How long till retirement?
Not soon enough. I'm only 55 and my 401k is not big enough. But yeah.
One's too low and the other's too low too.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure something out. I see Daryl. Who else is out there?
Oh, Scott's out there too. Hi, Scott.
Bill Talanian way back there. Oh, there's Wayne. Bill Theringer. That's all I recognize.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, and you sound good.
Okay, let's leave it there for the time being. And I have this other camera here so that if people have questions, you know, we can, it'd be easier for them to answer, but for the presentation and getting the meeting started up, we'll just leave it the way it is. There, each device plus Zoom has its own settings here. And then I put an extension speaker here, and I think that's what the problem was, because I forgot it has a microphone in it as well. So too damn many microphones. Okay, let's see. I think you'll be happy to know we got a nice big clear screen this time. Last time we had a little one, and this is going to look really good. So I'm going to point the camera over.
It's working for me now. I think they got it straightened out. Pages 6 to 8.
Okay, I think it's about, well, we'll give them a couple more minutes.
No, they turn on the camera. You don't know what they're doing. You see a name on the screen. Right. No, they're doing other things. They're not on their cell phone. They're washing the dishes. They're doing something else. You heard anything from yes, they're talking about the creek side again. Yeah, and there was a meeting like you were walking to the house. I got a thing from John said he was going to talk to.
Hey, Orver, do you have anything you want to share the screen?
Oh, hi, I got a whole presentation.
Okay, good. I didn't know if it was just, okay, here we go. I'm going to make you a co-host.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
This is the design that you run out of car. You go up to all these posts, you never have enough lines, especially when
absolutely must go. Oh, decaying hospital. Out of its misery. I was just thinking.
two nano stations.
We all complain about. Absolute star. Come back tonight. I'm sorry that I'm not on the floor tonight. You're fun. I'm sure you're sending me
Face the flag. The other end of the room.
Just a second till I get my feet up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's the only time I can get everybody to do the same thing at the same time.
Play ball. God, I missed the horseback games.
Okay, let's we'll go around the room first and introduce ourselves, and then the Zoom participants. Let's see, Larry, we'll start with you.
All right, Larry Martinez, WA6MV.
Wayne, Alpha Foxtrot 6, Golf X-ray.
Rick Whitaker, KG6. You're right in the middle of the camera.
I'm Brett, K6HNC.
Your one, your UQ, Bill.
Last guy in the corner, WA6QBT, Pat. Hello. Way over here.
Okay, is that everybody in here? Daryl, you didn't introduce yourself. Oh, you did?
You haven't introduced yourself.
Okay, I'm Brian, K6BPM. We'll start on start up on the Zoom, guys. Ron, you're first.
Yeah, Ron Gibbons, W6KKG out in Nolita.
Okay, and then we have a Marshall Miller, but there's nobody there. Doc, you're muted, Doc.
Doc, Whiskey 6 Echo Whiskey. Good evening to everybody.
Okay, John, W6JPG.
John, W6JPG down in Ventura.
CBB.
Come on, Mike.
You're muted, Mike.
Still muted.
Where'd he go? That's all right. And our presenter is Orv.
Hi, guys, or W6BI, Simi Valley.
Scott, VMH.
Hi, everybody. This is Scott, KJ6 VMH in Santa Maria.
And then that guy in the closet there, the RQV.
Don't say anything. Good evening, everybody. Michael, K6RQV, Goleta.
He's incognito here. AI6VX.
Dave, AI6BX, also in Ventura.
And Les.
Kilo November 6, Charlie Kilo Golf. Les out here in Camarillo.
Dorothy.
Hi, I'm Dorothy, Kilo 6 Delta Sierra Oscar. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Dorothy.
Les, so you still at work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's now Orv has spoken to us a couple times before, probably more than that. Orv is he's the point of the spear on the mesh network project, has been for some time, and I think he's the chief evangelist here pretty much.
This prediction and then
and so he talked to us about a year ago about things that were going on with the mesh, and he's going to bring us up to date. We're going to talk, I guess he's going to explain to us some ideas about bringing Santa Barbara into the modern world as far as mesh networking goes. So I'm going to turn it over to Orv, and you can give yourself full screen there, Orv, if you want to, and I'll go dim the lights. Oh, thank you, Pat.
How's that?
Perfect.
Yeah,
Good deal.
good.
Whoops, let me go back. It was about a year ago, but a ton of stuff has happened since then. For those of you who don't have a clue what this stuff is about, this is IP networking, TCP IP networking over ham radio, like the internet, only smaller and slower. A lot of these slides you may have seen before, but I've added a ton more, but not to worry. A lot of them are pictures, and we'll rip right through them. So anyway, I want to talk about data rates for ham radio digital modes. I'll skip CW, but we'll talk about some others. And when I'm talking about data rates, I'm talking modulation rates, not end-to-end throughput. For those of you who remember the dial-up modems, you know that a 56K modem, even when it was synced up at 56K, you didn't get 56K end-to-end. A lot of reasons for that, and it's the same here. Anyway, packet radio is 1200 baud, and with the modulation they use, 1 baud is 1 bit per second. So anyway, in modern terms, that's 0.0012 megabits per second. Wasn't especially fast in the 80s, and it hasn't gotten any faster. Pactor 4 can do 3 to 5 kilobits per second. Pactor 4 is not legal in the US except under STAs, which the FCC has issued for like hurricanes and stuff like that. There's a new software modem called VARA. It's some Spanish acronym. It's a software modem, and it will do, with the right hardware, up to 25 kilobits per second, which is not too shabby. The Arden gear we're talking about, with a good solid link, you can do over 100 megabits per second. Now remember, that's modulation rate, not end-to-end throughput. Every time you do another hop, same as packet, you add more latency and it slows down. But when you start at 100 megabits per second, you've got plenty of space. Anyway, the software has evolved a lot recently, but as of, well, now, supports 4 different brands of equipment, over 70 different models across 4 ham bands. Little asterisk means they do support 900 meg gear, but it's not very popular. It's gotten scarce, gotten expensive, and that band is noisy because there's lots of other smart gas meters and water meters in there, so it's pretty noisy. They also support 2.4, 3, and 5 gigs. We've moved away from 2.4 gigs because it's pretty noisy because of the splatter from poorly designed Part 15 gear. Plus, there's only 1 channel, and it's hard to make like a cellular network with only 1 channel to work with. I don't know if they had this last time I talked. If you find yourself on the getting into the Arden networking stuff, but there's no RF link near you, fear not. The stuff supports tunneling between nodes, so you can connect to another node over the internet and get on the network until there's an RF link locally. The software figured out how to configure the onboard radios to move them out of the Part 15 public channels, which are quite busy, as you'd suspect, into the adjacent ham radio Part 97 only channels, which are substantially quieter, which leads to a lot better performance, as you'd think. MIMO is multiple input, multiple output. It means that these radios will do 2 simultaneous data streams, split it out at one end and combine them in the other. And 802.11n is the wireless protocol that knows about MIMO and does the splitting and the recombining. And because a lot of ham radio operators aren't real up to speed on TCP/IP and networking, the nodes provide domain name services and DHCP services, which is an IP address server, plus route discovery and routing information. And all of those combined together make it pretty easy to get ham radio networks running. You don't have to worry about any high-level network configuration. Once the software is loaded in these outdoor wireless access points, they call them Arden nodes. No hardware hacking anymore. They're stock off the shelf. Makes the entry into this part of the hobby pretty easy. When you load them up with Arden software, they come up on the air, they locate each other and create a TCP/IP network. But you have to kind of consider them like handy talkies in that they're low power, typically and almost always 600 milliwatts. And they're definitely line of sight. No knife edge refraction here. So usually communicate via a hilltop radio site. maybe not quite as fancy as that one, but I've got some pictures. If your node does hear multiple hilltops, it will always choose the strongest one because that's the smart thing to do. So there's no point in using an Omni. It'll always go to the one strongest one. So you might as well focus all of your RF power in one direction and use a directional antenna. I've had this icon image for about 10 years now, and I've updated it as appropriately as the hardware improves. You can, in fact, go a long, long ways. The little asterisk there is to explain the gotcha. Because the speed of light is so slow, the farther you go out and farther you come back, the longer the acknowledgements take and the slower the throughput will be. You could have the absolute stop crunch signal to noise ratio, and if you're 40 miles away, you'll get far less than you would if you were a dozen miles away. So you've built up this awesome ham radio network, but it's just infrastructure. It's just networking. It doesn't do anything. It's all about the services, and those are things you can actually use. I've got some of them shown here. Anything you can put on the internet, you could put on a ham radio network, subject to the Part 97 regulations. So I have lots of examples. And here are some. If you've ever used Slack at work, you know it's a kind of a communications hub. Mattermost and Rocket Chat are two open source Slack wannabes. They allow text and pictures in a channel. And you can roll out multiple channels with different topics. They all have a web server where you can access the communications via a browser, but they also have applications for all of the popular OSs. So here's an example. This is our Mattermost server. Several years ago, KG6WXC, Eric, who lives down in Port Hueneme, you may know him. He was out in the desert, high desert, camping with his family on the night of the Ridgecrest 7.1 earthquake. They were out on the flat. They got bounced around a lot, no harm. The next day, he went out to the surface rupture and took this picture, and he was able to share it with us. Now, there's no Arden network out in the high desert yet, but there is cellular wireless. He has a Mattermost server running on the mesh network and one on the internet, and they're tied together. So he was able to take this picture and share it with us in our ham shacks. So it's pretty useful. A lot of people hang out there. It's not the only one, but it's what we use. Voice over IP. This is an old photo. This is before we deployed our PBX in Ventura County. It's a grand stream on the right because we weren't ready to do any open source asterisk or anything like that. And here it is. It's been deployed. This is an older picture. This shows it in the red ellipse there, sitting in the repeater rack in Sulphur Mountain. It's since been moved to South Mountain, but you get the idea. In Ventura County, we have, I don't know, about 30 extensions. Most of them are hams, but there are a few served agencies. Wherever we push out the mesh network to a served agency, we give them a phone and an extension. And we'll continue to do that as the opportunity provides. This is a phone. Because we had a Grandstream PBX, we encouraged people to get Grandstream phones because they're a little easier to manage and maintain. You can see there that I missed a phone call and somebody left me a voicemail. So these ham radio PBXs have pretty much all the same feature set you'd see in a regular commercial PBX. Voicemail, call forwarding, call waiting, conference bridges. This is the second PBX we rolled out. That's a Raspberry Pi 3. It's running, what the heck is it? Free PBX. And this one's sitting on Verdugo Peak in the San Fernando Valley. Because the network goes over there, the two PBXs are trunked together. They have different sets of extensions, but I've created sort of a pseudo area code you can preface a number with and call an extension on the other PBX. There are a number of PBXs like this out on the network. I have 2 more on the to-do list to trunk together. Collaboration servers. These are the kind of servers you see in the movies and TVs where the gamers are working together as a team and doing coordination. If you go to Wikipedia, there's a list of at least 24 of them, like TeamSpeak, Mumble, and TeamTalk. They all have similar feature sets: video and voice chat, file sharing, desktop sharing. I'm sure there's other features. We settled on TeamTalk because it's one of the few that doesn't mandate encryption. So we got to avoid that whole Part 97 discussion. It has chat rooms, voice chat rooms, by the way. You can go one-on-one, and you can set up as many channels as necessary, and I have an example of that. You can use the speaker and microphone on your computer. Laptops come with them, or a USB headset works really well. The conversations are full duplex. This is not your father's FM repeater. You don't have to wait for the other guy to time out the repeater before you can talk. You can actually interrupt him and have a fairly normal conversation. And additionally, because you have multiple channels, each one of them can carry on a simultaneous conversation. The phones, or the radios and the modulators and the software all throughout here has codecs. Those are the encoders and decoders. And they have various modulation protocols, just like a modem would. And as the bandwidth improves, they shift up in audio quality. And very typically, when we have a weekly net Wednesday nights, and I'll put my headset on and close the doors in the office here, put it on Vox, and put my feet up and just have a very natural conversation. The audio quality is so good that very frequently it sounds like the person you're talking with is in the same room. They have push to talk. We use the left Alt key, but it could be anything. Voice operated transmit, or open microphone. This is where microphones are nailed up together continuously. You'd put these on a separate channel, obviously, but you could see something where a fire camp was linked up to a fire base or something like that. And you put a couple laptops in, quieter rooms, and somebody could running in and say, "Hey, I need to talk to the chief." And the other guy says, "Hang on, I'll go get him." There's no dial up. There's no push to talk. It's a nailed up connection. We haven't used them, but I can see situations where it might be used. Anyway, here's a screenshot of the application. You can see the people logged in and where they're from on the left. This is one of our larger nets a while ago. On the right, on the right, there's 4 tabs. The chat you show, and there's a video tab. You can share a desktop, or you can share files. On the lower left, you can see a couple folders that say aux channel 1 and aux channel 2. If you and a friend double click on those, you'll be transferred over there, and you can have a private chat independently and simultaneously of the main channel. When you're done, you can double click on the main channel up at the tip top and be returned to that. This is one of our nets. We don't use video very often. We find that video doesn't add a lot to a net, but you can certainly use it if you want to. The reason we do this periodically is those are thumbnails. They're usually 640 by 480 by, 10 frames per second. And they work out to be about 100 kilobits per second of video feed continuously. And there's 7 of them there. So you can see 700 kilobits up, 700 kilobits down. It's about 1.4 megabits of bandwidth. And at the time I tested this, the network across here could carry between 5 and 7 megabits per second. So you could see that the network carried it nicely. The TeamTalk server here runs on a Raspberry Pi 3. And while I was running this, I was watching its utilization. And it had 10% bandwidth utilization and 10% CPU utilization. So this sort of thing is not stressful on a server. or on a network. And by the way, a VoIP phone call, when you're talking, is typically about 30 kilobits per second. So it's nothing. You could carry tons of phone conversations same time. I may have shown you this before. There's a backstory here. In late 2016, early 2017, when the Ardent software had matured enough to build backbones, Paul, WD6EBY, and I were pushing network backbone links across Ventura County. One link to the east, one link to the west, and a wireless access point for user access to the network. At this particular spot, Sulphur Mountain, we had a junker bullet camera that we threw up just for practice. And didn't think anything about it. Hadn't used it at all. In September, Ben, AI6YR, another tech specialist, had pinged me and said, hey, you can, here's an article on how to stream video cameras to YouTube. Maybe we can use that. So in late September, he sent me the article. I looked through it, figured it out, got it working, and streamed my my driveway cam to YouTube, showed it to him. That was cool, and put it away, not thinking we'd need it. Well, in December 2017, the Thomas fire broke out near Thomas Aquinas College, near Santa Paula. Hot and windy day, very dry. Ben watches all of the emergency services communications, and he pinged me and said, hey, fire broke out near Santa Paula. Don't we have a camera up on Sulphur Mountain? Well, we do. Different brand of camera, different model than I tried, different operating system. But I was able to get it streaming within a half an hour, 45 minutes. And this is what we saw. We were able to stream it for almost 2 hours before we lost an intermediate relay point. Power went out. At that point in time, we didn't have backup power. The winds were blowing so hard, it took out the electricity. Anyway, after we stopped streaming, the fire came down across this hill, and you can see the light on the owner's driveway. This is private property. Came down, took out all of his driveway, fence, gate, and everything. His property is just to the north, just ahead of the tower by about 60 or 80 yards. The fire came down there, went east to west across the top of his property, continued west through the town of Ventura, and you know what happened there. We lost hundreds and hundreds of structures. Lessons learned from this: backup power everywhere, more cameras everywhere, pan-tilt zoom cameras, and we spent the rest of the year and preceding the following year working on that. Interestingly enough, 2 or 3 days after this fire happened, I got an email from a Ventura County fire inspector asking for the URL of the YouTube video, and it was still up there, so I gave it to him. He thanked me. Didn't hear anything about it, but we did hear indirectly later that they found it useful because it was the first existing video of the fire. The following June, Ventura County Board of Supervisors proclaimed June Ham Radio Month, like they always do, but in their proclamation, they specifically mentioned this video. So we got a lot of mileage out of this, and hopefully it helps some people. So, as I said, we continued hardening the system, extending it where we could, where the opportunities was. And sure enough, next year, the Woolsey fire, November of 2018. It broke out in Woolsey Canyon on the border between San Fernando Valley and Simi Valley, about 2 or 3 screens to the left. This camera is looking to the southeast. Again, hot, windy day, very dry. In fact, my son and I saw the fire break out about just before noon, and by 9:30 the next day, you can see what happened here. It moved west to east across the mountains. You're looking at the southwest corner of Simi Valley. The fire made a run down the hill towards the communities down there, but the fire department fought it off. The wind turned, it went up the hill, back over, south into Thousand Oaks, continue south to Malibu. And again, we lost hundreds and hundreds of structures. We were a little more prepared this time. We streamed this for a day and a half, at least, I think. And I gave the URL to Ben, and he has a large Twitter following, emergency communications Twitter following. And he put the URL out there, and quite a few people watched this video for quite a while. And we got some feedback that they found it useful because it was real time. They didn't have to wait for the news. And since then, we haven't had any major fires. We had some small ones. I happened to catch this one. This camera's in Chatsworth Peak in the Santa Susana Pass, and somebody tossed a cigarette out on the 118 freeway and happened to catch this. If you look down at the lower middle of the picture, you can kind of see some little dots. That's the fire strike team that another previous helicopter dropped off. Anyway, this burned a few acres, and I streamed it out to YouTube, and much fun was had. But this is a really potentially useful use for the Arden ham radio network, streaming video of incidents. And because ham radio sites are frequently where there are no commercial or governmental presence, we can, in some cases, have unique views of incidents like this one right here. Let's talk about messaging. Future of EMCOM isn't voice, but data. If anybody's ever had to transfer a list of 20 complicated medicines over a voice channel, you know how tedious and error prone that is. Much easier to be able to send a PDF or a text file. You can do it with regular old email servers using standard SMTP, which stands for Simple Messaging Transfer Protocol, something like that. But it's anything but simple. The SMTP servers are common, free, and available. You could use things like Thunderbird, or there's some web email clients like Roundcube. However, for us, WinLink is where it's at. WinLink and the mesh network were made for each other. I'm going to talk about that. For those of you who are not familiar with WinLink, it's a global email system originally made for boaters. Originally, it only supported ALE radios. This is a pricey automatic link establishment radios. They are frequency agile. They can move around and establish connections. And over the years, WinLink has added support for packet radio, PACTOR, VARA HF, which is very similar to VARA FM I mentioned, and RDOP, which is an older software modem that's rapidly falling out of favor because VARA is so much better. On VHF, AX25, APRS, believe it or not, VARA FM, and Arden networking. And Arden networking has the advantage over things like, say, packet radio, because not only is it way faster, you don't have to specify digipeats. It knows the route to the post office on the network. And if you're not familiar with WinLink, it comes with a large set of standardized messaging templates, ICS, USGS, FEMA. There are some regional ones, and that group is constantly updating them. WinLink has really exploded over the last few years. I took this off the WinLink website, and I've updated it with my superior graphic skills. Winmore was an even older HF protocol. It was really, it's been left behind. I put VARA and RDOP there for HF, VARA FM actually for VHF, UHF, and that's the level where ham radio networking goes. This is the WinLink Express email client. Looks pretty much like any email client. The difference is, depending on how you route it over which protocol, you have to specify where you're going to send it. There's no automatic routing, so it can be a little more complicated. I want to talk to you about this. This is a picture of a session. whenever you go to transfer a photo, you get this session and it shows you the progress. If it's packet, it'll show you connecting through the digipeater, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. Anyway, this is connecting to a WinLink post office over the mesh network 3 hops away. And what I wanted to show you, I sent a 22 kbyte message, and start to finish to connect, send the message and disconnect was 10 seconds. And there are also other sorts of things you can do with the network. I put my weather station on there. This is from this spring when we actually got some rain, but you can certainly do that. It's not all about emergency communications. We've had a Scrabble server on the network and played a few games, works fine. BZ Flag is a tank game where you shoot them up, works very, very well. We've occasionally played a few hands of poker. I'm terrible at it, but it's a lot of fun. And as far as the equipment goes, you do have to get on the air. Most of them are designed for outdoor use. They're wireless access points. So they're weatherproof and they use power over Ethernet. That's where you run DC power up the 2 unused pairs. So you don't have to run a separate power cable. There are 2 software-defined transceivers in each one of these boxes. They are extremely sophisticated. If you ever want to get a headache, go into Wikipedia and look at the 802.11n specification. You don't have to read word for word, just skim it and get the impression of how sophisticated these things are. I can't believe they sell them for as cheaply as they do. And almost all of this stuff has gain antennas built in too. And if you're thinking about going out to eBay and buying some used stuff, be careful. Arden has helpfully, in their supported platform matrix, they've flagged things in I think it's a light green color, things they don't recommend purchasing for new deployments, both because they don't support MIMO, and non-MIMO and MIMO devices are sort of kind of like water and oil. They'll mix, but it takes work and they don't work that well. Additionally, the older ones are slower and don't have as much RAM as they need to support future versions of the software. And if you happen to see 802.11 AC gear out there, don't buy it. It's not supported yet. Hopefully, we had hoped by the end of this year, but looks like it's going to get pushed out. So anyway, that's the bad old days about 10 years ago. In spite of having 2 antenna connectors, that thing is not MIMO. It doesn't support 802.11n, only has 4 megs of flash. And remember I mentioned that the radios we use are 600 milliwatts? This thing is 60. So you're 10 dB down right there, not counting cable loss. So if you have a pile of them around, stack them up and use them to hold a door open. Excuse me. These are the nano stations for 2 gig and 5 gig. They're short haul. I'm not recommending them for new purchase anymore. We ran a network stress test last October, and these didn't do too well. And come to find out, they have the slowest CPUs of anything that Arden supports that's currently recommended. I would not recommend them anymore. Fortunately, there's a substitute. This is the MikroTik SXT SQ5. CPU is 50% faster. Instead of having a 45-degree beam width, it has 25. So you're putting more of your power where you want it to. And a little gotcha. If you buy one, what you get is in the lower left. The clamp to go on a mast you see on the upper right is extra. I think that's kind of chintzy, but fortunately, it's only a few bucks. If you need to reach out a much longer distance, these are what you might want to consider. The Ubiquity Power Beam for 5 gigs on the left. In the 300, 400, and the 620 millimeter scare your neighbor size. Now on the MikroTik Lighthead Grid varieties, the MikroTiks are really popular with the guys who are either backfitting their Go kits with digital capabilities or building complete standalone digital Go kits. They're light, and they have very little wind resistance because of the mesh grid they use for the dish. I'm liking these too. This is a Microtech QRT5, not lightweight, but it's only 11 or 12 inches in diameter. And this thing substitutes for a nice high gain dish. These are, let me think, 10-degree beam width and 23 dBi. So they'll reach out and smack someone real nicely. If you're in an HOA, this is your solution, because you're allowed to put up a satellite dish and nobody will notice that it's not pointing at a synchronous satellite. That's a Microtech Light Dish Feed 5 at the feed point using I don't know, it's about an $8 universal LNA clamp you can get from Amazon. About a year ago, they were $36. I suspect they've gone up some now, but you get 23 dB or so gain out of that. A few home installations on the left, a couple of nano stations for 2 and 5 gig. Why are there two? Because there are 2 access points, or were when this was taken, at the site 2 or 3 miles away. If one of those went down, he still has connectivity. We try and do something similar to this at served agencies where we're able. On the right, you can see a Microtech dish at the bottom and a nano station at the top. I didn't mention it, but the nano station has 2 Ethernet connectors. You can run your Ethernet data plus PoE cable up to the nano station, loop it back out of the secondary into a second dish. For this particular one, I'm not sure which one was which. One was pointing up at a hilltop nearby, and the other one was relaying it on a different frequency to a friend of his who was in the shadow of the hill. So he was passing along the network. This is up in the East Bay someplace. I asked for pictures. You can see a dish in the center, and to the right of it is looks like a 120-degree sector antenna. So he's also bringing in through the dish a link from distant and relaying it out locally. If you get into this stuff, this is pretty much the first or second thing you buy. Now, obviously, it's not waterproof. This goes in your shack. This is a Microtech home access point. It's a 5-port router, but we put Arden software on it. And what it does is it nicely integrates the mesh network with your home network. The ham network is on the 10.0.0.0 network, and it can't be changed. So it's kind of hard to integrate with your typical home 192, 168.1. Whatever network. But this thing does it very nicely for you. Not expensive, doesn't take up a lot of space. It's got some real nice features. Recommended. A number of these things I've shown you, just like a Baofeng handy talkie, wouldn't be appropriate at a repeater site, wouldn't be appropriate at a network site. This is more likely what you'd see 99% of the time up on a hilltop. This is a ubiquity sector antenna, probably 120 degrees. It's called a sector antenna because this one covers 120 degrees of the compass rose. Inside that are 220-degree antennas, one vertically polarized, one horizontally polarized. And if you look closely, you can see the 2 SMA jumpers coming off the back of the antenna and down to the top of the radio, which is a Ubiquiti Rocket M5, again, 2 channels. You would put this up on a hilltop and use it to connect to your users down at ground level. If it turned out that 120 degrees wouldn't cover it, you have people on both sides of the hill, you would not use an Omni. They don't work well. You'd use 2 sector antennas on 2 different channels pointed at your user communities, and you tie them together with an Ethernet switch down in the shack. Here's I guess you'd call it a small site. This is North Orange County, 2 gig, 3 gig, and 5 gig access points. This is a solar power and battery backup. The battery array and solar array are behind us, behind the camera. Here's a somewhat larger site. This is Chatsworth Peak. This is the one I take care of. 2 gig and 5 gig user access points. There's a 2 gig Part 15 access point for civilians, and the small dish isn't used anymore. The large dish points west, or where the heck does it go? Oh, that goes to South Mountain, I believe. That's in the backbone link. You can't see it, but up between the rocks, there's a notch and some stairs going up to a plateau a little higher. And on that plateau is another dish, a 3 gig dish, pointing at this 3 gig dish on the corner of this container. This is the darn side on Verdugo Peak, and it's pretty impressive. In spite of it, there's only 3 Arden things there. There's a 2 gig pointed west, a 5 gig pointed west, and 5 gig pointed south. The sector antennas, I mean. The 3 gigs come in, and on the telephone pole pointed to the east is one for Disappointment and one for Wilson, I believe. So they continue the network on. And this is a Sirius large site. This is Pleasant's Peak. This is in Orange County, someplace near Santiago, maybe. The owner is ham friendly, and one of the Arden developers lives in the area. So he's had a number of years to develop this, and everything in yellow is ham radio related. So you can see it's a fairly serious setup. Eric, KG6WXC, wrote a network mapper, a crawler. It goes out across the network and finds all of the network nodes it can. And within each node is a text file of vital information, call sign, location, model of the equipment, version of the software, and the various links it has, and the quality of those links. And he records that in a database. And if those nodes have put the latitude and longitude in, he can place them on a map. And he's open sourced the software. It's free for anybody. And probably by now, several dozen communities are using this. And I was able to get maps from some of them. This is Oregon. Orange is 5 gig. This is a memory test. This purple is 2 gig. Blue is 3 gig. I think pink is 900. And gray is no gig. That would be an Arden HAP AC light in somebody's shack. This is the Bay Area. They're helter-skelter all over the place. They're working to build up some backbones so they can get some better cells going. This is Southern California. When I looked at this, I think there were about 425 nodes on this map. Over late last year and early this year, the Central Coast has come online. They have some mountaintops. A lot of them are tunnels, but you can see they're starting to put some green links together. And here's Santa Barbara. Not too much activity there. So this is mostly all the old 2 gig stuff you guys have going. Needs work. Where you get Arden info. The website's ardenmesh.org. They have a list of supported products. Always good to consult that before you decide to go buy something. Software downloads, production, and nightly builds. They normally release a production build once a year, sometimes twice a year, sometimes in between when necessary. And every few days, if someone has contributed a patch, it'll generate a nightly build. Typically, it's a new feature add, a tiny bug fix, or support of a new product. So the nightly builds are pretty stable, so a lot of us run them. It's like kind of like Christmas when they come out. A bunch of how-tos and FAQs. And Steve, AB7PA, took it upon himself about a year ago to get his arms around all of the documentation and rationalize it. Wonderful set of documentation from soup to nuts. Even if you're vaguely interested, I recommend you just go look it over. On ardenmesh.org, they have forums. They're up to over 4,100 people. Some are regional, some are deployment. There's various topics. On Facebook, there's a page with over 1,800 members. It's not officially supported by Arden, but it's moderately active. There's channels on Discord, there's Slack channels, Mattermost channels, you know, whatever you hang out on, you could probably find an Arden channel. And you can get lots of videos on YouTube. There is an Arden channel, plus there's lots of others. The little asterisk there is to remind you, there's lots of old information out there, outdated information. If you find anything older than a couple years, take a pass, find something newer. I have a beginner's guide PDF I can hand out. It's a summary of all of this stuff. Plus, I have a PDF version of this very lengthy presentation with all my verbiage stuck on it. Other stuff, Eric's network map. Here's the short url.at/gok29. Or, you can probably find it anywhere. This is what we're considering doing. This is La Cumbre Peak. This is what the coverage you get from 120-degree sector antenna. I arbitrarily cut it off at 15 miles, but there isn't hardly a path there that's longer than 6 or 7 miles. So if you have line of sight to La Cumbre and we put this up, you'll have a stomp crunch signal up there. I tried to get some more coverage down by Montecito and Summerlin, but it looks like there's a hill in the way. So we'll have to do something separate for them. So this would give you connectivity around Santa Barbara, but how would you get out to the greater network? You could tunnel, and we may end up doing that anyway, but here's what the guys are contemplating. 5 gig link to San Ynez Peak and another 5 gig link going on to Gravel Peak south of Lompoc. The dish at Lompoc is already up and running, pointing at San Ynez. And if you're wondering about cost, there's a fair amount of hardware here. There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 radios and 5 dish antennas, a network switch here, and all the cables. Fortuitously, almost all of it's on hand already. The WISPs have been retiring this type of equipment steadily over the last few years, and we've been able to scarf up a bunch of it. And fortunately, a number of those WISPs happen to be hams, so they kind of vectored it our way. So the point being, if and when we get permission to move forward with this, the expenditure will be for a few bits and pieces of stuff, and everybody would have to buy stuff for their shack, but the stuff is not that expensive. We're talking 3 or 4 Baofeng handy talkies for one of these things. Okay, questions? I will stop sharing. Hope I didn't rip through that too fast or put people to sleep.
Hey, Orb.
Hey, Orb. Michael here, K6RQV out here in Goleta. We built that network. Well, I won't say me, but I got into it about 3 years ago, and we put a link up from UCSB to the TCF there on the Mesa, and Eric down south helped us get into the network. But we found that whenever we got into that south network, that everything pretty much slowed to a crawl, and so I think Eric just disconnected it permanently, and this has been a little island ever since. But there's just not that many people interested in using it up here.
Well, that's because it doesn't work very well, and there are some reasons for that. It's not architected very well. Everything's on a flat 2 gig network with lots of collisions. Additionally, there were some software deficiencies, weaknesses that were exposed as the network grew. Those have been rectified. The software is a lot more robust now. Obviously, if we have 400 and some nodes on the Southern California network, it's fairly stable.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Hey, Orv, Dave here.
Yeah.
I got a question. In one of the recent builds, you mentioned that it was supposed to handle being able to see one node versus more than one node in a particular direction.
Yeah.
Does that work well? Because I have an issue where I have I'm going in the South Mountain, and I went and put a higher gain antenna on the roof and ended up decreasing my throughput because now I was seeing stuff behind it.
Set the limit out just past the node you want to talk to, the distance limit.
Okay, and that works well? Do they overlap frequencies or something? Or
Well, if you're seeing multiple ones on the same frequency, drop me a note. I want to look at it.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure I do, but it's on one particular, I think, what is it, channel 177 or something? But,
I don't have them memorized. Sorry.
All
There's
right.
too many of them.
Thanks.
Yeah, they've put a lot of work recently into making the software a lot smarter about noisy environments where there are a lot of signals you don't want. And it's helped the throughput and network stability. That's a bit of a Band-Aid on a poor network design in San Francisco, but you know, they're getting their act together.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
You're welcome. So anyway, if we get permission to move forward, and that's up to Bill and his folks, we'll implement this and welcome to use it. And by the way, if there are chunks of existing network you want to tie in, we can certainly do that. But bring them up to the latest software. Any questions? From the room there, anybody? Bueller?
Wait a minute.
If we wanted,
Wait, can you hear him?
Just barely.
Okay, let me try something else here. Try now, Wayne.
okay.
Is that any better?
So how would
A
you
lit-
deal with integrating the 2 gig in Santa Barbara to this 5 gig system? You have another node on Vancouver that was dealing with 2 gig?
You could do that on if you want my honest opinion. If you want my honest opinion, start retiring the 2 gig stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's old and it's slow and it's all on the same channel. Barring that, if you want to keep some of it up, start minimizing the number of nodes each node can see. Make it more like a hub and spoke. That's hard to do when they're all on one channel, but if there happens to be a 2 gig node on La Cumbre or San Ynez Peak, we'll just tie them into the switch and they're connected Ethernet wise. Any questions? Okay. I'm done here.
Thank you, Orv.
You're welcome. May I be excused?
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Orv.
I'm gonna go eat some dinner. See you guys. Hey, if you got any questions, it's w6bi@arl.net, or Scott knows how to get to hold of me, and Dave knows how to get hold of me, and Brian knows how to get hold of me.
All right. Thank you, Orv.
Okay, guys. See ya.
Thank you for your time.
All right, let's see. I just found out, I think, were you guys hearing it out of these speakers? Because it didn't sound like it was coming from here.
Are you talking about that squeal?
Where's that? AI6VX, say something. I'm trying to isolate where this is coming from.
AI6VX 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, there's some, the little ones there.
No, it didn't coming out of here.
I don't know.
Very weird.
Keep talking. Somebody? Could it be coming out of a projector? They have the sound in there.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah, the only microphones that are open, well, me now, but the SBARC K6TZ and Jim Knight.
I have the speaker right there.
Huh, okay. Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing. You guys are looking at my screen. Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. All of a sudden when I switched microphones, the volume went. Can you switch microphones back? I just tried. Dave, say something again.
AI6VX SBARC monthly meeting.
Radio talking.
Yeah, that's really quiet. Wait a minute. No, minimize it. I'm just trying to figure this out here. This is
Are you choosing the right device to change the volume on?
yeah. Try it again.
AI6VX test 1, 2, 3, 4,
Maybe my
5.
battery's getting low.
Oh,
The battery is 59%.
Huh?
It's 59%.
That's the computer. I was talking about this one. The wrong battery. Oh, I don't know if I got the right cable to charge that up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Simon, hold up to the screen.
I still got it here. I'll get it back here.
Well, now I find out that all this is obsolete. So.
Well, it is, but yeah, let me see if I can get some volume.
this is like DMR night.
Yeah. Oh, I know what happened. Stop the forwarding back. Disconnected again. All right. Okay, now we're back there. I just got to figure out what happened to the volume. Let's see. Try it again, Dave.
You're interrupting my eating.
Sorry.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, well, I'll have to try and figure this out later. It was working okay. At least we got through the presentation.
Good man. This didn't help Rick. I'll give you a minute.
So, Bill,
Yes, sir.
so what do you think?
Well, I think, Sam has speak, I don't think. Yeah. Especially on some other issues with that. I think the first thing we gotta do, first steps first. Gravel people to the same people. Yeah. Yeah, what do we do with it before we get it on? Yeah, in fact,
You still got to.
servicing a non-existent number here, that I guess it's, build it and they will come. It's a dream, but I think.
Well, when we first started this, we had a lot of activity and just,
Well, I think we're done.
everybody got kind of tired of it because the more people that got into it, the slower it got. And that was all because because of our topography, we were all trying to go, we have a little, everybody was trying to hit Lacumba. And there's only so many channels. Yeah, well, there's 3, I think, but you can't use the other 2. So everybody's on the same channel, and everybody's trying to use it all at the same time and trying to synchronize. But as far as reliability, mine has been connected that solid for 5 years. The problem is that that's the only one I can see. And and I can still see the one at the TCF and the ones that have been up for all that time. But we can't expand it, and we can't get into, the one thing that everybody can see is usually Gibraltar. And we can't get to Gibraltar because it's sort of snuck in there. You can? I can't see Gibraltar, but I can see that. Oh, okay.
So is there still one working with 10 minutes? No. Oh, you have.
Yeah, but at the time we did that, that was what was happening.
Right.
The 2 gigahertz stuff, and everybody got one. So as far as building it out, it isn't as bad as it sounds. Most people have the mast and the cable run. All they got to do is replace their unit. And we have a bunch of 5 gig dishes down in Club Station, little ones like this, that people can use. So somebody, if they're complaining about having to invest another $100 in another, unit, we got those.
But those, the dishes or with radio?
With radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're ones that Orb gave us. They're from a WISP.
Yeah.
That stopped using them, and they all work fine. They've all been tested. They're all loaded with the Arden software, and they're all ready to go. But Lacumba Peak is it's just like the absolute perfect thing, because everybody in town can see Lacumba Peak. And we can have them on multiple channels and
get input from here. Yeah, that would be the county sheriff's. Not Cox. If we're gonna go to Cox, what we've got to do is get permission from their executive office to these 10 different people. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think there's any reason to do that. No. Yeah, we just have to look and see what these networking chunks are, because we don't have a lot of room there. The only room we freed up is when we switched batteries. We could probably put another shelf in there and put the networking stuff on that shelf.
well, the switches are. I've got one. I can show you. They're about that big by that big.
Okay, so we could put 2 on one new shelf over there.
Yeah, they're real compact. So,
But if you're gonna have the 5 and the 6, I'll have to. Yeah, sometimes I can see something.
yeah,
Just kind of grows. Yeah, I mean, those sector antennas are a lot more serious than the blue. The ubiquity thing we had there before.
they're like
They look like they're a couple.
And as soon as we say
microwave, that's what they have. So they're gonna do what? They're gonna do 6 or 11. What they have there.
well, luckily it's in the handband and we don't operate.
Yeah. Yeah, these are.
I mean, you can see what they're doing with this, though. I mean, that's their back door, or that's their doorway into everything. Because nobody has that. That's what's getting them in good with all the agencies that they're supporting, and that they're doing things and have operators with expertise that can perform all kinds of functions when the rest of the whole thing is the same.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a chance to revive areas a bit.
Yeah, because we had a field day one time, and I built a mobile mesh network, and I set it up. I hooked it up to a 40 or 30 amp hour car battery, or battery, and it ran for the whole field day. They draw hardly any electricity.
Yeah.
And I just bit it out of a closet pole and a piece of plywood and set it up, and it was good to go.
but the areas could have those kinds of things. You know, the club could have them and hit them to Aries members and wherever they are. If they want to set up at a, you know, like when they have a big fire, they after the key fire, they set up out at where was it? One of the school parking lots, I think, or something like that. And you have Rick Cross there and a bunch of people there. But having the ability to, you know, get messages out to people, and luckily all the other services were on everywhere.
Yeah.
Even then, they still didn't have 10 years or 15 years ago, so that was, you know, they didn't have mobile, or, you know, like modems for cellular. But still, I mean, having those capabilities when nobody else has them, you know, that's what gets us the attention.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just FM voice, EMC is probably not very interested.
No, but but it's all, you know, and you know, WinLink is, all we need to do is set up a local WinLink server. And plus we have a couple of Starlinks in the neighborhood. For the Starlink, you can have a WinLink server and you can use Starlink as your access point to the outside world. So there's a lot of ways that you could use that to provide areas right now. I think that anybody's interested in, you know, the van showing up and putting up a mass, you know.
Especially, I mean, you're gonna need, you want to, you know, show up at a general, you know, in a general site, you know, like the public health clinic in Park or something. You're gonna need a bit of a map to try to hit the.
Well, I mean, like with a backup repeater and
Oh, I see, yeah.
something like that. For what?
For Arden?
If you want maintenance,
But it's also kind of, then you get back to that latency problem. You're trying to do Arden without a lot of way, and you run into that latency can be.
Yeah.
Rincon Cape would be a very good spot. If nobody's been able to break that skill back together, get something on top. And there's fewer things up there than ever before. If people will try to get through the oil company, they're not too anxious to walk it.
Yeah.
His name is really he had a building. Yeah, well, there's buildings there. The question is, yeah, Rincon Peak is not just wrong. It's beautiful. It's Santa Barbara. Fantastic. Nothing up there. Yeah, you look right down on the harbor, the whole city.
Everything.
You can see all of Ventura. You can see all high. I mean, it just covers that whole area. You can look towards Ventura. Yeah. It's a good spot. Getting through those people. Few people are trying. You know, they kind of go like 98% of the way. Yeah. I've been up there. Yeah, it's nice spot. Yeah, there's a couple of times. Yeah. Political poll, maybe. Oh, the county has a. Yeah. Yeah.
They haven't said no, but.
They don't say no.
No, but they just say later.
Yeah.
But that's later is like, you know, geologic time.
Before everybody goes home, there's a free good home table over here. That's what your wife said. Yeah. By the way, I forgot to
Okay, I think we're gonna shut the meeting down.
pick up the faceplate on that.
I'll have to fool around, see what's going on with this speaker. Say something again, Dave, just for fun.
Dave, say something again, just for fun.
I don't know why the volume went so low on this. Huh?
What speaker are you using?
Huh?
What are you using for a speaker?
It's
What do you, oh, okay.
it worked all the way through the presentation, but oh, there you go.
I picked up one of these on eBay for not much. You're more than welcome to give it a try at the next meeting. It's a USB, not a Polycom. It's made by Clear One. It's a Chat 160 group speakerphone. We use them at work because it's really hard. The microphones on laptops suck.
That would be better if you had something like that we could set on a table.
Yeah.
And everybody could hear and talk to.
Yeah, I'll let you borrow it at the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got one. It's about eBay. You're on about that JBL.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, next meeting we'll try something different. This, maybe I broke this. I don't know.
Well, that's a Bluetooth speaker, isn't it?
It's a Bluetooth speaker, yeah.
Because maybe you lost the Bluetooth link.
No, I got the Bluetooth link.
No, it was?
Yeah.
It's working. It's just the volume's just low. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, real low volume.
Because how could it operate so beautifully all that time? And
Yeah.
It didn't even degrade. I mean, it just went from 100%.
Maybe the amplifier got fried or something.
Yeah, but my wife has one too, and she blasts it all afternoon. Maybe I'll go to, let me see what happens. YouTube. I'll just play something from YouTube and see how it sounds doing this. Got to be an ad here. Yeah, that should be really loud. Because if I
26, not a dime to solve homelessness.
that's my computer.
To prevent minors from begging. Prop 26, no protection for minors. Prop 27 helps every tribe, including disadvantaged.
Yeah, if I switch to this,
disadvantaged tribes. Both.
I don't know. It's connected to my phone too. Yeah, that's pretty piss poor. Oh well. Anyway, let's see. Okay. Something's funny.
Movies. It's incredibly rare.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and shut the meeting down and do better next time. Thanks for everybody for coming.
Accurate prophetic insights.
Other than that, it was a big improvement.
Truman Show's allegory
Yeah, really good turnout too.
Truly understand its meaning.
Yeah.
It's by
Oh, whoops.
diving into the story.
I'm playing
The film
both
begins
these
with a
stupid
monologue from
things.
Christoph, who says,
Okay. Have a
All
good
right,
weekend.
Yep. See you. See you,
Over
John.
and out.
Bye.
Bye.